And we are live. Hi guys, Real United Talk. My name is David Riggs. We are joined by Pankaj and George
Yeah,
Carl. How are you both doing after that?
doing good, man.
Yeah, very good. Excited. Excellent win.
Mhm.
Obviously, quite a few goals, and that's obviously another incredibly good thing. Improving the goal difference after we got that horrendously sort of destroyed by Spurs, obviously a few weeks ago. So it's all good, really. Obviously, so.
Yeah, I suppose it kind of makes up for that. Now, obviously, I've titled this as well as you two might have seen or might have seen. Ollie's masterclass wins War of the Roses. Now, obviously, that might be more like an inside joke or anything for anybody from around that area, but basically, Leeds are the best team in Yorkshire. United are arguably once was the best team in Lancashire. Lancashire and Yorkshire are right beside each other, and they pretty much hate each other. Now, I've obviously been a bit tongue in cheek when I've called this a masterclass. But I think, in my humble opinion, my opinion doesn't represent everyone on this channel, which I'm sure is going to be certainly known in a second. But I think Ollie did everything right today. I think he rested players that needed to be rested, and I also think that midfield worked. Obviously, some people didn't agree with that. Now, obviously, in the cold light of day, we now have hindsight. We now know that it worked. But obviously, when the first team lineup did come out, that James was playing, no Pogba and stuff like that, how mad was you, George, on a scale of 1 to 10?
To be fair, I still thought no matter what team we fielded, I still did think we would win. It was an exceptionally unusual game because, as I sort of alluded to previously, I haven't necessarily seen Leeds play, and I think what Marcus said was quite accurate. Really, that's probably the most accurate sort of thing that can summarise what happened. Really, which is that it's two teams to play a game, and I think a lot of it was the fact that Marco Bielsa prior to the match had said that he was aware that if he parked the bus ostensibly or played a more pragmatic or defensive approach, that would maybe be a more advantageous way to play against United, because we have seen obviously in previous matches at Old Trafford that when teams do sit deep, we do struggle to break them down, which is obviously I can name quite a few examples this season where we have done. But Leeds really did, all credit to them really, and they obviously play quite an attacking style of football, and they decided that was what they were going to go with. You know, with two goals, obviously, I think Scott McTominay scored a brace. And I think that's the quickest brace I think in Premier League history, isn't it? I think it's the
Yeah,
only
something like
scored
two
in like
goals in
3 minutes.
3 minutes,
Yeah.
weren't it? Yeah.
And an incredibly fast start for once from United. We'd always said that we wanted, in numerous of these post-match reviews from different games of this season, we've said we wanted United to start quickly and fast. And you can't start much faster than that. Obviously, two goals within 3 minutes, and already you're almost you're in such a positive position. And like obviously Scott McTominay was on fire that entire match. Really, obviously the two goals he scored, but also throughout the entire match with so much drive and determination, so much poise, composure, and coolness in terms of how he took his finishes, but also his passing as well. Distribution was excellent today. Some of his tackling, I thought he was, he had a stellar performance. But yeah, in terms of the actual team selection, I always did feel that we would win. And I think, it would have been a brave man, I think, to have bet that we would have seen, with the team that we had, we would have seen that scoreline. I think I don't necessarily think anyone would have predicted that as it would have been a very rank outside to have predicted that as a scoreline, as an attacking one, even if we had played, let's say, slightly more attacking players, let's say, because that was quite astonishing, really, that it sort of transpired the way that it did. And Dan James, obviously, I'm actually quite a big fan of Dan James. So, I think there is a player in there. I have said that, even, though he has had quite a few critics, I've still said that he has all the sort of raw materials to be a very good footballer in terms of, specifically, his pace, which is absolutely blistering. Even if you can marry that with some kind of end product and skill, then you've got quite a player there. And obviously, I'm really pleased for him that he got his goal, which we'll sort of get on to. But, the team, as you said, in hindsight, or obviously looking after the game, the team was spot on from Ollie. You can't say any less than that. It's a 6-2 victory. As I said, the formation, the personnel was correct. The defence, I think, was quite It was quite edgy at times, I would say. There was quite a few. If you look back at the match, although we created quite a lot, and obviously we had so many shots and chances, and far more than Leeds, so we deserved to win. But Leeds did have a lot of of glorious chances that maybe they should have done better on as well. So maybe they'll feel that they should have been slightly closer than it was. But yeah, full marks for Ollie from getting the team right, and ultimately, an incredibly convincing victory. And it does wonders for our goal difference, is what I sort of said, which is the main thing as well. So,
fuck. Oh, there he is. We obviously go into the live comments. We've got Jay Hart. It says 21 incoming. He says no complaints from me about the players today. Everyone gets a 10, which I can agree with to an extent. I don't think everyone deserves to get a 10. I'd say some people did okay. But obviously, it's 6-2 when you can't really complain much. Now, I wanted to ask Pankaj you this. Obviously, George alluded to it there, where, as he said, obviously, we had a lot of chances. We put our chances away, but Leeds also had a lot of chances. I mean, the fact of the matter remains, they did score 2. And if they'd have had better players, this could have been a cricket score. This literally could have been 6-5, 6-6, God knows what. Were you at all concerned with how open we actually was at the back, even though we had scored a lot? We was conceding the same amount. I mean, was you ever concerned, especially, at 4-1 when they got one back?
No. I wasn't that concerned. I was a bit concerned in the second half when they scored the first goal. I was a bit concerned, but afterwards I wasn't that. When they scored the first time,
I said when they made it 4-1, were you concerned? You said no.
In the first half, when they scored the first goal, I was a bit concerned because Leeds, they scored goals as well. I remember the game against Liverpool. They scored 3 goals early on, so they have the tendency to score a lot of goals quickly. So that's why I think what Ollie's approach was, and what he said to the players, is score as much as you can early on. Don't give Leeds a chance to score. So I think that was the game plan. And then and I think I was quite surprised how early McTominay scored 2 goals in quick succession in 5 minutes, I guess, right? That's the record in Premier League history.
3 minutes, 2 goals in 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Yeah, 3 minutes, yeah. So it was quite surprising, and I mean, scoring 3 goals in the first half so quickly was brilliant. And I think we never went in like we never dropped our gear. Like we went always in the third or fourth gear. We kept on going, moving, and I've never seen that at home at Old Trafford, performing we never looked off the pace. I think in the second half we slightly dropped off because of Leeds. Were a bit threatening on the counter. They had a couple of chances. I think they had one open chance, but they missed, and then they had that. I think De Gea made a very good save, so that was good as well. Yeah, and I mean, everyone performed well. I mean, it's hard to choose who's the man of the match, but I think for me, I think it's going to be a bit controversial, but I think for me, Daniel James has performed really well in this game. I think he was really important for this game because of his speed.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, Dan James, I was one of the people that I was a bit shocked when I seen his name on the team sheet, but I was like, if it works and this comes off, we should give him the credit it deserved. I do think it did come off, and obviously other players. Now, there is one person who, when you look at it statistically, probably had a good game, but I don't feel like he did. Now, the guy I'm talking about is Martial. Obviously, if you count the Bruno goal, he got an assist, won a penalty as well. But for me, I don't think Martial. This is, if you look at all on paper, it will say that he created a goal, won a penalty. That's good. But for me, I don't think his overall play was good enough. I think he got into some good chances with good play and good touches, but I don't know what's wrong with that guy at the minute. We said it the other night, George, didn't we? When he got his goal, perhaps this is going to be him that will now kick on. And it's almost like every single time he had a chance, he was taking a touch that he didn't need to be taken, or he was just hitting it straight at the keeper. I mean, maybe this is me being overly harsh. I don't know what you two guys think about it, but like, I was getting really frustrated with that.
I 100% agree. I think his shooting again was very suspect and awry today. There was one chance in that second half where it absolutely begged belief that he didn't score. It was it came to him, and obviously he had all the time in the world to just sort of set himself, and he took too many touches. So I take touch, and then finally the Leeds player obviously blocked, and it went slightly wide. But it was so easy. As I said, it begged belief, and some of his, as I said, his shooting. There was another chance as well that was straight at their keeper, which he had. And as I said, some of his shooting today and finishing, and even for example on the Bruno goal, what will classify as his assist, you could almost see that was that wasn't necessarily a meant assist almost, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, he mistouched it.
Yeah, exactly.
He basically lost control. Yeah,
he sort of miscontrolled it, and then it finally, and then obviously sort of spurted out to Bruno, or finished with aplomb. The way that Bruno does.
I mean, VIP Mark is correcting me on here. He's put Martial got the assist for the Lindelof goal. He obviously flicked it on, didn't he, to the back post?
Well, no,
but who's to say that wasn't him aiming for the net?
No. Clarify, sorry on that. Yeah. So it's good that he's brought that up actually, because that was a point I was going to bring up at some point, which is you and I, Dedrick, were talking about at the very one of the things we talked about in the post-match of last show was that we hoped that United would get routines going at corners. And what I actually thought was how good I was really positive, obviously, that I actually think that was a worked thing where we sort of talked about maybe a flick on at the near post, somewhere at the back post and so forth. So that showed that potentially Ollie has been working with them on set piece routines, because actually that did seem like something that was off the training ground and was very well worked. And that was a good flicked header by Martial. But overall, as I said, some of his interplay was good. But some of his control, usually one of the things that Martial's very good at is he's good at holding the ball up. And his close controls, exceptional in the way he sort of links up and plays with different and sort of brings other players into the game. But some of his control again today, not only his shooting, but some of his control, the way he just obviously some of his touches, he kept on losing the ball. And as I said, some of his shooting was terrible. Again today, there was at least a couple. And as I said, that the one there was another inexcusable one, which was that one where he took too many touches. But yeah, I was very pleased with that. But at the same time, obviously, just sort of speaking about corners, yet again,
we concede from one.
It's literally every week. I mean, that's why we'll just literally play the same post match over and over again. We're just saying we conceded from a corner, but and that's, to be honest with you, that is inexcusable, really. To keep making the same mistake is absolutely base insanity. It really is. And I can't believe we've conceded from another corner. But yeah, that's something that Ollie does need to work on. He's got the fast start that we wanted. So one of the things that we've asked for that he kept on repeating was us, conceding the first goal, and he's finally looks to have rectified that with a very quick start from United. But again, these sort of failings or flaws in our team need to be rectified. These corners and ultimately, obviously, Pankaj said as well that save from De Gea was unbelievable, because again our defence was such a simple sort of like attacking move by Leeds. There was countless times. There wasn't just that one. There was loads of times as well where Leeds got in, but that one was an incredible save from David De Gea. But again, when he should have scored, because it was still. It was quite close. David De Gea, if it had been any sort of like, been further away, he wouldn't have saved it. But it was still quite close, but still such a save, because obviously it was point blank. But it just, as I said, some of the there was another one, wasn't there? There was a low cross at the very end almost. There was a low cross from their right wing, and it just, again, all our defenders sort of went for it.
I think one of them let it go, Bamford let it go, and then it goes to that post.
And he should have scored. There's no way that was put. He had literally like almost an open goal. This guy, and he just screwed it wide. But that's just an example of how easy Leeds found it to create chances against us. And I think ultimately the disparity in quality of the sides was the main difference, in terms of who was clinical when they needed to be, because the chances, although we did have quite a few more than them, they still could have been more clinical than they were, and it could have been a much closer game otherwise.
Definitely. Mohamed Jabbar has also said here, he said Martial is always at his best second half of the season. Pancakes is going again. He will come back to his best. He is hoping. There was going to be a point I was going to obviously ask Pancakes, but I might as well ask it you until he comes back.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's here he is again. Might as well ask him. Might as well ask him myself. Why do you disappear the second before I'm about to ask you a question?
I don't know.
I was going to say, obviously, that Bruno, that's another brace for him, another penalty, another goal from open play.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, these stats are now starting to add up. That it's not just penalties anymore; it's actually goals from open play, assists from open play. At what point do we actually start to then sit to now start comparing him to like the elite in the world now? Because obviously, when he first came in, we all knew he had fantastic statistics from over there in League NOS. And we all said he might, even if he does 5, 10, well, even if he does half of what he's doing over there, he'll be amazing. And he's actually doing more than half at this stage. Obviously, he's not a goal a game like he was for them. But I mean, at which stage do we now start saying to him, right, this guy's on the level with Kevin De Bruyne, this guy is in like the top 3 bracket in the world for his position? Do you think he's that good at this moment in time, Pankaj?
I think, yeah, he is already, in my opinion. No doubt about that. He already is because he's been consistently given performances. Even if you look at the last game against Sheffield United, he played well, even though he didn't give any assist, any goal. That's a sign of a world class player right there. Because it's not just scoring goals or giving assists, but having an influence on your team. So I think he's already a world class player. He's I think I wouldn't say he's still the best midfielder in the league. Obviously, De Bruyne has done it season by season. So if he does it for another season and for another season, then yeah, why not? It depends upon whether we're challenging or winning the league. But I think he's already one of the best in the world right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is what I had an interesting thought today, and I thought to myself, if he carries on at the rate he is doing, at which stage do we then start thinking, if he carries on like this, who's to say Real Madrid and one of the big boys in Europe don't come in for him?
He's not going to leave.
I bet Sporting Lisbon thought that. I mean, where do you stand on it, George? Are you in the same thing as Pankaj, or do you think, we should kind of simmer that talk almost?
Obviously, the good thing with Bruno is that he has been an exceptional signing for us. Undoubtedly, scoring so many goals and assisting so many goals. Obviously, his overall sort of direct goal contributions are absolutely crazy. Phenomenal. And even on pure numbers, I think probably he's exceeded even Kevin De Bruyne. I think in those sort of stats now, because obviously De Bruyne is not necessarily having as good a season as he would do typically. And Bruno is definitely up there in terms of one of the best attacking midfielders in the world. I would like to see him do it for maybe slightly longer. I think before you sort of look at maybe him being the absolute best in the world. So another couple of seasons, and obviously that's going to be beneficial for us if we want to be challenging for the top honours, whether that's the title, or something of that nature. But yeah, as I said, he's an incredibly good player. Some of the things, you can't really take it out of him though, because of that, that's part of his natural game. But again, I think today some of the stuff he was trying, or some of the decisions were quite silly. So there was a wild shot. I remember when there was slightly better options on the right. But again, you can't really sort of. You don't necessarily want to train out of him too much, because obviously he is someone who plays off the cuff, and some of the incredible stuff that we've seen has come when he's done something that's been outrageous, that has had a very small chance of success. But yeah, as I said,
one of those ones is if it comes off, he looks like a genius. Yeah. But otherwise, he looks absolutely like a crazy person. Like I think against City last week, it was in the 90th minute. It's about 35 yards from goal. He chops onto his left foot and has a strike.
But as I said, he's doing exceptionally well for us. And in terms of your point as to whether bigger clubs, or the clubs in Spain, for example, so Barcelona, Real Madrid, those sort of clubs are coming in for him. I think that's almost inevitable. And what I would say is that it's good that we've only had him for a year, because obviously it means that his contract's going to be, no matter what, he'll have to almost run down his contract to, if he wanted to move. So we've still got him for at least another couple of years, cemented in place, really. But yeah, as I said, it may be that he might want to move if, in the same way as obviously Paul Pogba, if we're not challenging for major honours, or in terms of winning things. So yeah.
Okay. Well, this is one thing I was going to obviously ask you, but I'll ask Pankaj first. Pogba, obviously no Pogba on the starting 11 today. He obviously didn't get onto the pitch because I don't think we honestly needed him. I can understand why. Let him rest. I think we play Everton away this during the week for Carabao Cup, if we're even going to prioritise that. But I mean, do you think, obviously there's going to be a raging thing, but with Pogba, do you think that there is a possibility he will leave in January? And if he does, will you be entirely gutted for him to go, or would you much prefer him to leave in the summer? If that makes any sense.
Look, he is going to leave in January, and would I be disappointed? No, I wouldn't be disappointed, but I would like him to stay with us till the summer, because he would be a good option in the midfield still. I mean, for certain games where we need a bit of creativity or something out of the game, or maybe against the bigger teams, sometimes, or teams who are really defensive, because I think he shouldn't have started this game anyway. He wasn't meant for this game, I guess. I think we would have lost this game if he would have started, in my opinion.
Ooh.
Instead of Fred or McTominay, to be honest. I'm telling you, instead of Fred, definitely, because I think if you look at people disrespect Fred a lot, but Fred is a really important player to to our squad and how we play. I mean, the guy, he runs around. His work rate is immense. I mean, if you put in Pogba over there, if you replace Pogba instead of Fred, you lose that work rate. You only have that creativity. You only have that intelligence, but you lose that work rate, because Pogba isn't really a player who's going to work really hard off the ball. So on the ball, he looks brilliant on the eye, but off the ball, he doesn't look that great, or he gives away silly fouls, he gives away penalties, he does silly mistakes, sloppy mistakes in his own half. So, and you look at Leeds, right? They press a lot. So, he's not perfect for this game, not at all. So, I wouldn't be disappointed if he leaves. Sell him right now. I don't care. Seriously.
Okay, so moving on to that, I don't think I'm going to give George even a chance to even. I'm joking, George. You look like you're about to burst with excitement. I'll let you have your rebuttal to
that. Obviously, I don't think that Pogba will leave in January. I think he will leave in the summer. I think we've obviously quite a bit of the news. I think Mino Raiola, has clarified his comments on that. I believe he said that it would be quite difficult not to for it to be a January move, so it probably will be in the summer. So I think we do have Pogba for the remainder of the season. As to whether obviously it's going to be a bad or good thing whether Pogba goes, it is kind of irrelevant, because it does look like he's going. But in terms of his ability and what he brings to this team, it's going to be something that we are going to miss quite a lot. We've seen in quite a few matches, obviously recently since he's come back, and obviously we saw when he came back with Matic after lockdown, we saw what a difference Paul Pogba makes. Even in, for example, the game against Leipzig, when we were obviously down, and then he came on, he was, it's undeniable that he was the difference maker in that match. We almost managed to, get it back to 3-3. Where he was creating absolutely everything and so forth. And again, it is sort of hypothetical as to whether he would have made any difference, in this particular match. You will never know, will we? So whether it would have been, he'd have been made any difference. I don't think that Fred played particularly well, actually. some of his passing was terrible again. He's, he is quite noticeable when Fred. So in this game, what I did like from Ollie, and I don't know whether I think it must have been tactical, but it was it was almost like a boxing match, wasn't it? Where two heavy hitters were just trying to slug there wasn't no room for defending, just trying to slug each other.
Yeah.
And just whoever could score most goals. And obviously that was how it sort of went. It was like chance after chance at both ends, which we've already sort of spoken about. But in those sort of games, it meant that I think Fred sort of excels in games where we play quite a defensive fashion. So in these sort of like games where against the big teams where he's having to sit back and do a lot of ball work and a lot of trying to win the ball back is when he excels. And I think in this match that didn't necessarily suit him because obviously he did win the ball back a few times, but a lot of the time he was almost playing a lot further forward because it was almost like all out attack. And when we saw him in advanced positions, his passing and shooting is terrible. It isn't Manchester United standard by any means whatsoever. And he had lots of opportunity to do that today because, like I said, it was basically all out attack on both teams. It was almost like a kickabout down the park where you obviously have the coats and jumpers was how the match was. And as I said, so I didn't think Fred played particularly well, but the main thing was the win. And I thought, McTominay, by contrast, he has shown obviously today that his shooting and his finishing is actually sort of quite an underrated ability that he does have because he has scored quite a few goals obviously for us, McTominay, compared to Fred, who I think has scored against I think only 2 goals he scored for us against a bunch of farmers. I can't remember what his team was.
But, I remember his first ever goal. It was right footy goal against Wolves. 1-1. I don't have a fucking clue.
I think he scored 3 for us altogether in his entire career.
Yeah, with a brace in the second.
A brace against a bunch of farmers in the Europa League, I think it was. But yeah, as I said, some of his passing, and obviously there was a bit because it was like a sort of snapshot where it showed the best and worst of Fred within like a few seconds, where their goalkeeper, I don't know if you remember, obviously rolled it out, and obviously it was or kicked it out. I can't remember if it was a roll or kick, but obviously to the left hand side, Fred showed all his pace and tenacity. Nicked it back. Then obviously was so quick to get to the ball, obviously before their defender, just about towed it past him, and then was in on goal. So as I said, all that he was amazing. Incredible energy, work rate, determination, endeavour, and has got himself into an amazing position. And then I can't even remember what was it he did. It was like
driving it hard and long.
Yeah, it was like a terrible shot when all he had to do was either, obviously, he could have had a better shot, but all he had to do was like square. I think it was Cavani, wasn't it?
Cavani, and then Martial a bit further.
It was right next to him, and all he had to do was the simplest roll over of a pass, and it was a goal. Well, maybe not with the way that Martial's playing, but simple pass, which was the best ball. It was almost like the worst and best of Fred. And like I said, because of the way that the game went, it meant that he was in more attacking positions, and that's when you really see some of Fred's failings and some of the reasons why I don't necessarily rate him as a Manchester United quality player. So yeah,
no, I completely agree. I think this game, I think he did things well, but I think once you did get past like a certain area of the pitch, that's when it's like, right, you almost feel like saying to right, give me the ball, you go back over there. Obviously we've had a few more comments. So Mohamed Jabbar has put Riola has already downplayed the move comments. Nobody can afford Pogba in January. He will probably leave in the summer. Akil pretty much echoed that again. He said Pogba will not leave in January. Mino Raiola said if he leaves, it will be in the summer. I think we have to move him on. If he doesn't want to stay, let him leave, and let's go for a CDM and Grealish. Then Mohamed Jabbar has put Pogba needs to go at all costs, no matter how great he is. The baggage that comes with him is too much. Fred, Scott, Bruno, midfield is far better and provided us better results than with Pogba. I mean,
I can't. I'll totally disagree on that last point, but obviously I'll let you go. But yeah,
I will obviously have to give an opinion. I think we've had some good results with them, but ultimately, I'm not going to sit here and say that we aren't a better team without Pogba, because we're not. Pogba improves any team, but this is going to make no sense, but it will make sense to me. Yeah, it has to be the right Pogba. If it's Pogba that can be asked and Pogba that fucking wants to put himself about, then yeah. But if it's the Pogba that sometimes turns up when he's just like, then it's pointless him even being there. Like, one thing that frustrated me after one of the games that he played well the week, the West Ham game, I think it was, after he scored, immediately came out on Instagram saying people need to stop talking and stuff like that. And the thing that frustrated me about that was it's not like it's the media talking about him. It's not like it's the fans that are talking. It's his own fucking agent. If you want the talking to stop, you tell your agent, and it stops.
I think it was about that build, though, wasn't it? Sport build, whatever his name is, Christian Falk, or whatever his name is, because he'd come up with something that said that Mino Raiola was going to get sacked if because Pogba was saying to him, "You either get me the move or you get sacked." So that was basically, and it was basically sort of sticking up for Mino Raiola. But what I would say on the sort of Instagram and Twitter and social media posts and stuff like that is that all of our players are terrible at social media. Just some of the stuff they come out with is ridiculous, especially after when it's a disappointing result. Whatever, we must try better. And all this other sort of mumbo.
We go again.
Yeah, we go. It's mumbo jumbo. Tip. You just words basically, no meaning to them. That's all of our players really. There's no.
Chris Smalling used to love a fucking Monday morning apology, didn't he?
Yeah, no. What I would say though on that front, just as to bring this in here, was that I was quite pleased that Dean Henderson, after the who was it? Sheffield United, wasn't it? After he played Sheffield United, when he made that mistake, in his first sort of Twitter or tweet post, he said, "I'm really sorry for the mistake" or something. We were after for my mistake.
Yeah, it wasn't my mistake, right? It was like
exactly. He went my mistake. So I was shocked and incredibly pleased the way he sort of said that, because it actually does show proper accountability. It's actually you admitting that you're at fault. And normally, what we get with our players is, even if it's like, Harry Maguire's quite an easy target for me to say, but it's like Harry Maguire will be like, it's anyone else's fault, or it's like the team's fault. It's not my individual fault. And that's what I quite liked about Henderson's post, because, it is better when someone will take individual accountability rather than, trying to almost foist it off on other people, which a lot of our players tend to do. But, ultimately Pogba will be going, which is sad for myself, and I think it is detrimental for the club, because he is an asset to us. And I still think that in games to come, obviously in this season, and hopefully we are. I mean, I obviously won't jinx it or anything like that, but hopefully we're now seeing a real upturn towards something good. Let's say at the towards the end of the season, although it is exceptionally early, is what I would say as a caveat. Hopefully Pogba can be instrumental in those games if we are need him. And in terms of like the midfield three, I think our best midfield three has been proving to be Matic, Pogba, and Bruno. In terms of results and consistency, that has proven to be our best midfield. After lockdown, obviously, a good result against Sheffield. With the same old typical defensive frailties. Making it a closer game than it otherwise would be, because we had an excellent game that game as well. So yeah, hopefully Pogba can be good for us in the remainder of the season.
I hope this is the thing. I hope that we can at least keep him all the summer. If we can almost set him, look, give us your best till the summer, then you can go. I can deal with that. If you help us get into the Champions League, and then we can help you sort of move, I'll have no issue with that. It means everyone parts, everyone gets what they want, and we have time to find somebody to replace him. Now, obviously, you mentioned it there, trophies. It is too late to be talking the titles, like 21 and all that jazz. Don't get me wrong, if it happens, fucking, no one will be happier than me. But leaning on to trophies, now, obviously, Pancakes, we play Everton away in the Carabao Cup on Wednesday night. What would your team selection be almost? Now, obviously, I'm not going to ask you to tell me your man for man 11, but would you, start a strong team for this because we are away at Everton, or would you almost be like, play almost like a reservist game? I don't want to disrespect Fred and McTominay here, but like almost play, the likes of them, start with Dan James again and almost work your way into it, or would you go your full strongest? Would you be starting the Matiches, the Pogbas, the Brunos of the world for that game?
I think we can rest a lot of players and still our team would look strong enough to beat Everton, because if you look at our team, we could start Greenwood, Cavani, and maybe Rashford, I think, and then your midfield would be Pogba, Bruno, and Matic, or it could be one the big Pogba, Matic. So
Mm-hmm.
you could rotate a bit, and then our back four could be Telles. You could rest Luke Shaw for that game, and then Lindelof, Maguire, and then Wan-Bissaka. So yeah, we could rest a lot of players and still have a good team. So I'm not worried about that game, to be honest.
No, I completely understand. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Maguire, and obviously I know it's not going to happen. I wouldn't mind seeing him given a rest because I mean, even in tonight's game,
Yeah.
fair enough, we did win, but he was pissing me off. Like there was one point when he was driving with the ball and he was at the edge of the box. It was the edge of their box, and I was like, "What the hell are you doing? Just either pick a place or have a shot."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's put focus on the league. This was Jose's mistake in his second year. That's why I really follow players social. Oh, that's going on to the other thing. I wouldn't say we're at that point yet, Jay Hart. I wouldn't say we're at the point where we say no, we need to prioritise the league over anything else. But like, if it were up to me, I'd be binning it out of the Europa League because I really don't. I don't want to do anything in that. If we can. I mean, I don't know where you sit on this, George. I was saying it towards the end of last season when we were in it, when we'd already qualified for the Champions League because of the whole COVID situation. We had to play them both at two separate times, didn't we? The two competitions. Once we got into the Champions League, I was saying just bin it off. I mean, if it were up to you, would you almost get, not even bother about the Carabao Cup and the Europa League and concentrate on the league? Or obviously, do you want to just, are you more interested in seeing trophies?
Obviously, for Manchester United, you have to be in the business of winning trophies at such a large club. It's been quite a few years now since we've won a trophy. I think the last one was the Europa League, wasn't it, back in 2017? Yeah, so it's been quite a few years, obviously, and Ollie, particularly for Ollie as well. If all the people who are Ollie in or want Ollie to succeed, which obviously we all do, but we don't necessarily think that he's got the attributes, or we don't have the faith necessary that he will do. But if you do want Ollie to succeed, he does need to start winning trophies. And obviously, we want to try and do that this season because obviously he's now in his second full season, isn't he? So we want to see him win trophies, and I think it is too early in the season necessary to give up on competitions. We're quite lucky now that the Europa League, I think, only starts in February, doesn't it? So Carabao Cup, there's quarter-final, semi-final, final. I don't know how they're sort of like changing the fixtures around with being slightly condensed season, but with the sort of schedule or fixture congestion won't necessarily be a factor, I don't think, in the next. Obviously, we've only got Everton now, and whoever we get, if we obviously go past Everton, we've only got maybe a couple of games left to hopefully win a trophy. But yeah, as I said, we just hopefully looking to win a trophy ultimately this season, no matter what that's going to be. What I would say though is just on that is that, irregardless of what I would do. So, like I said, I would try in all competitions, but eventually, when the Europa League kicks back in February, in March, whatever, I'd bin that off straight away because hopefully we'll be in a hopefully we'll be searching for something else at that point. And so I would bin that off. And also, it's such an arduous competition. It really does hamper your league form. Like we've almost forgotten. I think. Well, maybe we haven't. But the Thursday Sunday, constant rigmarole is incredibly debilitating for
every single team that I can ever think of that's qualified for that. Even the likes of Wolves and Burnley and stuff that's gone far into it.
Yes,
it just hinders you.
100%. Yeah, it's just too busy. Yeah, it's just, and obviously you're going to all these because you're playing against
Dynamo dinner ladies.
Exactly. You're going to all sorts of areas of the world, like to these away matches and stuff, and all these like flight times and things. And it's just, and what I would say as well, just is that, like, just to come back to the sort of original thing, is that I don't think Ollie will ever not take competition seriously. I think we've seen that over the past couple of years that he's now been in charge, is that there's never been a competition where he's not taken seriously. There's been competitions where he's made what seemed like silly errors, let's say, in terms of team selection. But I don't necessarily think that's him sort of like giving up on them. It's actually him thinking that this is the way to win the match still, and he's obviously still going quite strong. So Ollie definitely won't be taking any competition lightly. I still expect a strong team midweek against Everton. And what I would say as well is that in terms of what team he's actually going to field, I think that it's quite difficult sometimes to ascertain this season, because we saw last season when he kept being the same X1 or same 11, I should say, at the end of the season, we saw definitively what his strongest team was. And I think this season, it's actually quite difficult to establish what his best team actually is, or what he thinks his best team is, because there has been so much rotation. So, you know, when we sort of say, obviously, like you sort of mentioned, do we want to go with Matic, Pogba, and Bruno, which I think is our strongest midfield, but obviously, and I think you do as well. I don't think Ollie. I'm not sure that Ollie thinks that is his strongest midfield any longer. I think he does like McTominay a lot, and I think he does like Fred a lot as well. Maybe Van der Beek is probably the odd one out, really. That we can sort of see there's maybe quite a lot, sort of the low man on the totem pole, so to speak. So it's quite difficult to see what he's going to pick, but hopefully we are going to win that match. And it is good, of course, that McTominay and Fred have come in and played so well. I think we've got what's excellent is we've got so many options. I think when I sort of looked at the bench, or I saw as the match went on today, I looked at the touchline. We had obviously Cavani, Telles, Van der Beek, I can't remember who else it was, were warming up, and I was like, oh my god, look, the strength and depth here on the bench is incredible. And when everyone's fit, we have got a very good squad, particularly in the midfield, and obviously up front. If the midfield is obviously playing, if Fred and McTominay are on form, we've got so many options in midfield and up front. The only problem is, like you've obviously spoken about there, is that in defence, we just will not drop Lindelof and Maguire. It just won't drop them. And again today, some of the defending was abysmal. Yeah. Especially like low crosses, I've noticed as well. Low sort of like grass cut across, and our back four go to pieces. It's terrible. But that's the one thing you can be sure of, is that Maguire and Lindelof will be playing on Wednesday. You can bet any amount of money on it. So.
I completely agree. We obviously have Dave in the house saying thanks, Deirdre, Pancake, George doing a good job as per usual, and J Hart's put. Remember when we had John, Shaw, Lingard on the bench? Sorry, I meant Young instead of Shaw. Oh, Jesus Christ, I forgot we had him. Yeah, and it is a good thing. This was one of my gripes at the end of last season. But the strength and depth coming off the bench, and obviously we now have that. It's almost like, in all his head, he'll almost like have a bit of an embarrassment of riches, I feel. I just wish Donny can somehow get involved more, because I do think there's definitely a player in there. But obviously, I'm going to wrap it up now. But I just want to obviously ask you two guys, man of the match, who would you go for? And I'll start with Pankaj.
This is a bit controversial, but I would go for Daniel James because of his. The reason why Ollie choose Daniel James is because of how Leeds press, and he's a player who was, a part of that tactic which Ollie was going with today, and he was really effective on the counter attack, as you saw. Usually, when while he intercepted a lot of Leeds play, and in terms of attack, and in the goal he scored. So goal he scored in the end was remarkable. That touch he got, he just read that pass by, I think, was it by Martial, I guess, or
no, McTominay.
Yeah, McTominay. Yeah, so he read that, and then he just blasted it in, and then
I don't think it was meant for him. I think it was meant for Martial. I think he might have messed
made McTominay's pass look exemplary, didn't it? And
no, I'm talking about the I'm talking about the goal he scored, right?
It was incredible sort of movement by Dan James. And the way he took out the defenders, with that touch, just took out all the defenders and scored. So he had a very good game tonight.
Yeah. Who would you go for, George?
So for me, it's Scott McTominay. I thought he was, ultimately he was almost as sort of the match winner and sort of decider. He's turned into prime Paul Scholes in the first 3 minutes, breaking from deep, scoring an incredible long range. That long range shot was perfect, wasn't it? It was almost like you hit it so sweetly and exactly in the corner from so far out. So it was an excellent goal, and obviously the second goal showed real grit and determination and drive in making sure that he was there, and obviously running past Martial. We want to see some runners from midfield, and it was a really great finish. But also, obviously, we've talked about the assist that he made for Dan James as well. And I think all through the game, he was often driving through brick walls. And we saw, I think, what sort of summed up for me was because as I said, McTominay was sort of the engine room today and was everywhere and was instrumental throughout. Was, I think, maybe a couple of minutes. Yeah, in fact, did he not go off as well? He had a groin thing, didn't he? So I'm not quite sure whether whether McTominay's going to be all right for future matches. Because I saw him like sort of hobble off, didn't he? He hobbled off at the very end.
Yeah.
But that just shows.
I also can't remember that match was just such a blur now.
But he did. He sort of hobbled off because he'd almost sort of like run himself into the ground. Because I saw him like a couple of minutes prior to that. I saw him sort of when he'd won a corner. I saw him sort of standing or sort of almost kneeling at the ground because he was like breathing so heavily because he'd run himself, into the ground. And yeah, exceptional performance for him, and definitely my man of the match for McTominay.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree with you. I would be going for McTominay as well because I think, obviously, him being an academy player, a lot of the foreign guys like the Brunos and stuff like that, they won't really have much of an idea about this rivalry that it even exists. They'll just be thinking, "Oh, it's just Leeds, Leeds." But there is like a really deep hatred between the two teams, and I'm glad that it was an academy player that obviously got us off to a good start, and he'll know, and if not him knowing that he'll be reminded constantly. They hate us just as much as we hate them. I mean, I heard other people saying that United don't really like asked about them, which we're not, because they've spent 16 years in the wilderness. But I mean, before they got relegated, you didn't. This game would have never been finishing a 6-2, and it's almost a bit of an impossible task because when we try to banter Leeds now after this, it'll be, well, you're expected to beat us, and if they'd beat us, it'd have been your shit. So, like I said, I'm rambling now. I'm just glad to get the result, to get the win. I obviously know a few Leeds fans, which I'm sure you do. You guys might do. It's good to obviously get that first one under the belt, and I kind of hope that the second match, obviously at Ellen Road, hopefully we can have some fans in that by that time, and hopefully get a bit of a good atmosphere because that will be a good game. That game would have normally been packed.
The one sort of thing I am hopeful for now is that we can hopefully use this as a springboard and use this to try and gain some consistency at home, because we all know that away from home in the league this season we've been the best, statistically in every sort of way. We've won every single away match that we've had this season. We just need to make sure that we turn some of these draws and losses at home into wins, and then hopefully we can achieve something amazing this season. And I particularly want us to see us continue winning lots of matches up until when we play Liverpool in January, because we want to make that game as interesting and as decisive as possible.
No, totally agree. I'll answer this before we get going. So, what do you guys think of Lindelof as our centre back? How has he improved? He hasn't. In my opinion, he hasn't. I've always found him to be quite consistent. Is he? He just does okay. But he's the better of the two centre backs, if you ask me.
I still think. I think both of them are. What was that? You think Maguire, don't you? But I think both of them are very suspect. I think both of them need to be got rid of. But it's arguable that someone, if we get an exceptional defender in, which we do need, that is the one thing we must get, as I've already spoken about countless times in January. We have to get literally any sort of really good centre back to come in, because that is the one position that we desperately need to get reinforcements in. But Lindelof for me is still, made a good pass against Sheffield United, for example, and obviously scored a goal today. Full credit to him. But I still think defensively, which is where defenders, the clues in the name, where they sort of make their trade. I think he's still very suspect, and so is Maguire. We're still not only we conceding far too many goals, but also we're conceding far too many chances, and not chances as well. Which I clarify, not chances which are, long range shots, for example, but clear cut opportunities where the defence is cut to shreds, and where De Gea is having to pull out world class saves, or we're having to get exceptionally lucky. So yeah, Lindelof for me still got a way to go before I can consider him a first choice Manchester United centre back.
You piss off doing that, Dick Pankaj. I'm trying to get this up right. Don't forget, guys. Remember to please like, share, and subscribe. Before I go, guys, obviously, I just want to say a big thank you to you both for coming on, and obviously, Ollie's at the wheel. Do you guys want to shout out your socials?
Don't say that.
After you, Pankaj.
See you soon. That's it.
See, so you don't. Fuck you then, George.
So it's at George Kyle 9 on Twitter. I do have a YouTube channel as well, but I think it's a bit cheeky.
Let's not talk about that. Let's not.
But pleasure to be on, and after a great win, very very happy actually this evening. So yeah,
no worries, guys. Cheers. Thank you very much for coming on. Have a good stream, guys. Bye.
Thanks very much.
Bye.